Hello everybody, this is Steve Yoder and welcome to week 3 in Legal Studies 457-557, Business Law for Accountants here in the spring of 2025 at the UAB Collat School of Business. We're covering a lot of territory this week, the heart of the common law of contracts. Here is our extra credit opportunity from last week that I gave you in last week's preview video. The correct answer was that the people who were opposing President Trump's attempt to block payments for federal grants went to the United States District Court for the state of Rhode Island, a very heavily Democratic state, where those people who brought the lawsuit thought that maybe the judges would be sympathetic to their cause and not sympathetic to President Trump's efforts. But I will add 2 points to your first exam, if you sent me that Canvas mail message. Here are the learning activities. We're covering 160 pages of the textbook. I recognize that's a lot, but I only, in most cases, will test on those topics that are also covered in the PowerPoint slides, the so-called class slides that have 3 parts that you can see here. So you might have those slides printed out and open next to when you're reading the textbook. The law of contracts is really the law of promises. We all make promises every day, including in business, and if there was no set of laws that upheld those promises, the business world would descend into chaos. So that's why we have contract law. We are looking at the common law of contracts that applies for really all contracts. There's a special, easier set of contract laws that apply for the sale of goods that we will be covering next week. Here's a checklist that I use. I suggest you use. You have to have all these things checked off for there to be a legally valid contract. So if you had a client come in and say, hey, can I get out of this contract? Or can I make the other side live up to this contract? Pull this checklist out and you'll get the answer. Checklists are not a bad thing. They're a great thing. The medical profession uses them every day in the OR. The professional pilots of the world use them every day. That's what Sully Sullenberger used to land a jet plane full of people on the Hudson River. The first element of the checklist is that there has to be an agreement. There has to be an offer and an acceptance, and those happen all the time. Here's an example of one in public life. You've all heard of this guy. Here is our second extra credit opportunity based on the concept of an agreement. Send me a Canvas mail message by Sunday night, April 7 at 11:59 p.m. telling me what offer related to a contract was made to federal employees that they had to either accept or not accept. Periodically through the course of the semester in the PowerPoint class slides, I will give you examples of exam questions that I use and that the CPA examiners use. Here's one for the concept of the common law of offers and acceptances. Under the common law, an acceptance has to exactly match, has to be exactly the mirror image of the offer in order to create an agreement. If there is any difference between the offer and the acceptance, the so-called acceptance is really a counter-offer that has to then be accepted by the person who made the original offer. In the modern world, we see lots of ways that people are given to accept offers. Here's one that was not upheld. Merely clicking is, in this case at least, not good enough to create an acceptance of an offer, but here's one that was. considered sufficient. Sending back an email, even though you did not sign something, this court said that is a good acceptance that created an agreement. Another element of our checklist is that there has to be legally binding consideration. Usually money is used, and that's considered legally valid, but sometimes there are things other than that will be at issue. Courts will never look at the monetary sufficiency of consideration. Think about it. If they did, there would be lawsuit after lawsuit as to whether you were charged too much. So the answer to this question is that the court will not question the adequacy of consideration, B as in boy. You have to have capacity. You have to have the mental ability to appreciate what you're doing. Arguably, Charlie Sheen, if he had entered into a contract, if he had accepted a contract or offered somebody something under attempting to make a contract 14 years ago when he was supposedly on a drug and alcohol-induced bender, he might have lacked legal capacity. Minors are considered not to have the necessary legal capacity. The law makes it very easy for them to unwind a contract. However, they can also affirm a contract. You're a minor if you are under 18. You cannot enter into a contract that is illegal, for example, to commit a tort. As you will see in this slide, that's also in, of course, the PowerPoint class slides. You cannot enter into a contract that would violate public policy. There are several things that are considered public policy, like the ability to get married. So if a boyfriend enters into a contract with his girlfriend's parents not to continue to date and to not marry their daughter, that would be against public policy, and that contract could not be enforced by the parents. Another public policy is that we all have the right to earn a living. So if there is an overly broad contract that you enter into that prevents you from making a living, that could be struck down as violating public policy. Not only do you have to have agreed, but you have to not been forced to agree or done it in haste and or done it by mistake. And here are the ways that you can find yourself maybe successfully arguing that you did not assent to the agreement that you entered into. Mistakes, there are two types of those that we'll be looking at, unilateral and bilateral. Duress. If someone has a gun to your head, I think you could probably successfully say that you were under duress and that the contract should not be enforced against you. But if you have a fender bender and the other person jumps out of their car and says, "I'll sue you unless you waive all your damages against me above the $50 that I'll hand you right now," that's probably not the kind of duress that a court would consider necessary for you to get out of that agreement. Some contracts have to be written down. You can't hastily enter into them and just have an oral agreement like a contract for the sale of land. The goal of any contract is for it to have an end, and the end of a contract is called the discharge of a contract. You can discharge a contract by several means. One is by performing. That's the usual way. That's the goal. Another way is by breaching it, but if you breach, you're going to have to pay damages. Here's a guy. Google this guy, Antonio Brown, if you want to see an expert on breaching contracts. If you do breach a contract, the other side could get damages. Usually it's money, but we'll be looking at that. You don't necessarily have to actually sign a contract to benefit from it. Intended beneficiaries can benefit from a contract they have not signed, but incidental beneficiaries usually cannot benefit. Look at the video I did a couple years ago at the Regions Operations Center on this topic. The first exam will open this Friday, April 3rd at 5, and will close on Sunday night, April 6th at 11:59. I will add your extra credit points just as soon as I can after the exam closes. Here is our calendar. Today is Monday, March 31st. Our CPA client consultations for some of you will be due at 11:59 p.m. on VoiceThread on Wednesday the 2nd. On Friday the 4th, the first exam will open at 5 in the afternoon, and it will close on Sunday the 6th. I might have said April 3rd earlier, but the first exam opens on Friday, April 4th, and along with a couple of other quizzes, closes on Sunday night, April 6th. So be using this week to prepare for that exam that will close. The availability will close on Sunday night, April 6th. But if you have a little free time, it's always refreshing to think about other things going on in the world, including perhaps March Madness.